attended my workshop, and I'm just going to go through a couple of the exercises that we did so that you can practice these at home. So as you remember, we did an exercise where we were trying to find our neutral spine against the wall, and we used the bamboo stick when we were practicing the bodyweight squat. So I'm just going to go through that with you now. So obviously from the side, when you were standing against the wall, some of you could feel that exaggerated lumbar curve, and some of you may have felt that the head would go against the wall because the curve in the upper spine was too curved. So using the bamboo stick will help you become more aware of your alignment. So if you place the bamboo stick behind you, so you've got one hand just on the top of the spine and one hand on the lower. So we're going to hold that position there. We're going to take the feet just slightly wider than the hips, because remember, if the feet are too narrow, then the hip bones won't be able to bend properly into the hip joint. So if you take the feet just slightly wide, I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see. So we're going to hold this stick here. So if you think about this lumbar curve where we could slide the hand through, we're just going to try not to round the back, but just feel as though we're keeping the head and the tailbone in contact with the stick. Then we're going to start to bend the knees and not allow the stick to come away from those positions. So you may not be able to get very low, that's fine, because if you remember we talked about incorrect movement patterns, and this is how we can start to correct those patterns by using this prop. So we're bending the knees, keeping the sticks, we're bending from the hips and the knees, and coming all the way up. So we're drawing the navel to the spine to keep the abdominals engaged. So again, that's going to support the lower spine and lifting up. Okay, we're going to do two more. So bend the hips, you should feel this pole coming away from you. So if you have got forward head posture, then this can happen. The head comes forwards. Again, if you're rounding the back, you can see that I'm pushing, and this part of the pole wants to move as well. So we're trying to keep the tailbone and the top of the head together. And I'm going to do one more. Okay, so that's one of the exercises. The other one was the single leg squat, if you remember. So you can use the pole actually to help with just a little bit stability. I'm going to try and not use it. So we're standing on one leg. You can use a chair for support. I'll turn this side so you can see. And it's like a golfer's bend to pick a ball up. So we're going to bend on one leg. So again, if you find it hard to do this bodyweight squat, this is another way to pick something up from the floor without putting any stress in this lumbar spine. So we're going to bend down. This other leg goes behind you. This is as though you're reaching to the floor. Okay? So again, you can use the bamboo stick to help you keep that alignment. Now, to make it easier, you can place this back foot on the floor. So we're bending down, we're bending the back knee and up. Okay, so bending down. If you feel that you can't bend that back knee very far, you can see this front knee is bending more and lifting up. Okay, so that's a single leg squat. The other one that we went through is on all fours. And we're going to place, if you can, the stick, it's actually getting it there, that's the problem, on the head and on the lower spine. Okay, so this makes you a lot more aware of the positioning, again, from I've just got a head, you can say it's not very, very good. So, if you can see, if I dip my spine, you can see that the pole's just rolled off. So I need to lengthen about endurance exercises. So this is more of an endurance exercise. Stretching the other leg back. I'm only going to do two, because obviously when you're at home you can do more of these. Okay, lovely. So again, we can do a plank, so we're going to tuck the toes under. So as you're floating the knees off, this stick shouldn't move. Okay, what you tend to find is that if you lift your lower spine up, that happens. Okay, if you drop the rib cage, you can see that arch in the spine. So we're trying to keep the head and the tailbone in line. And then release down. Okay, good. So onto our backs. So this is to help, remember sort of we looked at the hips being tight and the lower spine, if your posture is that forward bend in the lower spine. So arms by your side. So just to start to stretch the lower back muscles, we're going to roll the spine back into the floor and lengthen out. So when we're doing these exercises, it's best to start with these types of stretching so that the muscles that are tight are stretched before we work the ones that are weak. So we're rolling back the spine. So we're going to start to squeeze the bottom. So again, we talked about the glute muscles being very weak. And we're going to lift the hips to the ceiling, the chin comes down to the chest. And rolling back down, one vertebra at a time to the floor. I'm just going to do one more, then I'm going to show you the other exercise to help stretch the lower back muscles. And all the way down to the floor. So arms to the side, we're taking both legs to one side, keeping the rib cage down towards the hip bones, breathing in as the legs go away. So you can see that I'm not just letting my legs flop to the floor, I'm still keeping control through my abdominal muscles. Good. Okay. The other stretch for the lower back is a cat stretch. So back onto the hands and knees. Excuse me. So again, we're coming into neutral. We're going to focus on that lower part of the back, tucking under, so we get that stretch through the lower spine and release. And we're going to allow the spine just to dip slightly to the other end of the scalp. So tucking under, we pull the rib cage up, allow the head to relax. Try not to pull the shoulders, push the tailbone away. And looking forward, lift the chest, breathing in, exhale, curling up through the spine. Okay, just before I go, the other thing that we can look at is the walking. So do you remember we did the walking where we tend to sort of sometimes when we're walking is not use the arms. So by using the arms when we walk, we're allowing the spine to move. If the arms are too static, then it just places a lot more load through the lower back. So think about when you're walking that you're not just strolling and sinking, you're holding yourself up, thinking about holding the abdominals. And activating these bum muscles. So we practice just standing and trying to squeeze the bum. So you're going to place the heel and then try and lift up and squeeze the bum before you take the next step. So you may look a bit strange outside, but you can practice this inside. So you're squeezing and release. Squeeze and release. Finally, the hip stretch and the hamstrings. So remember, we talked about if the lower back muscles are tight, then the hip flexors can also be pulling you. And the best stretch for the hip flexors is to come down onto the mat. You take 1 foot forward, so the big toe is in front of the knee. And again, we're trying to keep the spine upright and lift the hip. And we're holding it there. So try and hold these stretches for at least 30 seconds, if not longer. If you have got any knee problems, you can put a towel underneath the knee. So that's the hip stretch. more flat, then the hamstrings can be quite tight. So the other stretch that we did was standing with one hand on the leg and the toes pulled up to the front. Again, we're keeping that alignment from the head down to the tailbone. You can use a chair, which is more progressive. So if I had a chair in front of me, you'd have the leg on the chair and you bend this back knee. Just be careful that you're not going into too much flexion in the lower spine. And you can do this slightly more tricky, again depending on your knees, is to lengthen the leg forwards. Again, lifting up, not allowing the spine to curve, because remember we said that flexion in slow spine is too much. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the workshop, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you at the next one. Thank you very much.